for
All right.
joining us again. This is What the Frout with J-Zilla. I'm here with guest Pastor. Is it Pastor or Reverend? I know that'd be the first question for me. What the difference is? But Pastor Givens, out of Mount Lebanon Missionary Baptist Church there in good old Columbia, Tennessee. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful in yourself,
The
sir.
very same. Thank you for asking. So, what is it? Is it pastor, like minister? What is the difference? Pastor, minister, reverend.
Pastor is when you're over a flock. Reverend, it can be the same thing. Minister, you just haven't uh, well, I would say gotten your license. Well, you gotten your license, but you haven't been ordained. There it goes. That's what I'm. That's what I'm.
Oh, okay. What does it take to?
Yeah.
What does it take for a minister to be ordained?
Well, it's different criterias. If your overseer or your pastor see fit for you to um, take longer than others,
Mm,
if you don't see you quite pursuing what you need to pursue, it can take longer. Myself, it took a year.
mm.
I went to school 4 years. I was licensed. And then when I was about to graduate from college, I got ordained. And I'm probably getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to let you ask the next
No, no,
question.
no. It's fine. So we won't do much of an interview style. We're just having a conversation. Yeah,
Okay,
just
okay.
just just roll your shoulders back. Crack your neck a couple of times, and yeah, we're just talking. Because you'll find
All
I'm
right.
a very inquisitive person. I'm very curious, and I've always
Okay,
had a bunch of different questions. So I'm just gonna have a conversation. So
okay.
tell me a little bit about that process of going from getting your license. Like, what school did you go to? Is it a special school for ministers slash or ministers trying to be a pastor or a reverend?
Yes, actually, I went to American Baptist College in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh,
Uh, where I went 4 years. Got my degree, my BA in pastoral studies, and I finished. Met my wife. Well, while going to school, met her. It was a revival going on in Columbia,
mm-hmm.
Tennessee. One of my late frat brothers that passed away was preaching at Mount Lebanon.
Oh wow.
Um, and he did a week revival there. And I met my wife. And to make a long story short, we're still married.
There you go. Look, spoiler alert, folks out there. You're talking about the lovely Seeker Givens, formerly Seeker Russell.
Right.
Yeah. So we went to school together and church together. I've known her for a very long time. And I mean, our Columbia base is going to know who she is. So tell me a little bit about that. Did that feel intimidating to you? Did you feel like, man, like, oh, so where were you from? And what made you kind of follow where your wife was?
Well, actually, well, let me back up
Oh,
before. I had a basketball scholarship in Pensacola, Florida. I went there to Pensacola Christian College for 2 years. Left there. Sad to say, the school when I was going, it wasn't accredited, so I wanted to
oh,
go to a school that was accredited. So I went to American Baptist College. Like I said, all 4 years. Graduated with my BA in pastoral studies.
hmm,
Then I started being a youth pastor at Second Baptist in Nashville.
oh, okay.
Under Barlow, Calvin Barlow, CC Barlow. Then I stayed there for 2 years, like I stated, and then I went on, came to Columbia,
Hmm.
moved here. So I didn't want to go back home. Then my wife didn't want to go back to California.
Right.
So I ended up here. Then I was interim pastor over on 4th Street in Macedonia.
Mm.
I stayed there almost a year. And then I was called to Mount Lebanon Missionary Baptist Church of 2015.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you want to break down what you said called? What does called mean for the people who don't know out there?
Called mean when a church calls you, like for an interview. They call you to ask you questions, see where your mind is headed, see what's your vision for the church, or if you have one, or if you get it, what would be your vision. Um, and then they'll go from there. And then they'll call you, literally call you on the phone and let you know they want to formally meet with you again.
Uh-huh.
And then you have to go for a formal interview with the church. You have to do Bible study. You have to preach for a week. I mean, for a month. Do Bible study for a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll go to the next one, then the next one, and then quite luckily, thanks be to God, that I got the final call.
See, when you said called, I thought you meant like a divine calling sort of thing. And then you're like, no, they just got on the phone. They just got on the phone to call me.
Well, to be honest, you're absolutely correct when you think about you being called to preach. That's a divine call.
Okay.
Only God can give you that call.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're right in that aspect.
Okay,
God
good.
called. Yeah, yeah.
See, that's part of that learning process there, Pastor. Yes, sir.
You're all right. You're
So,
all right.
and I love the fact that because I had a similar situation with my wife, I was into all sorts of frivolous things and misbehaviors that I'm sure, as people watch and pay attention to, it'll be revealed, little by little. And hopefully people out there can learn from my mistakes like I have. But I literally left my family, and my plans were I went to stay with a friend in Georgia, and I was in constant communication with another friend in Australia. And I was gonna leave the country and like, all right, I'm out. I gotta get myself all the way away from this mess, just to
Right.
shake things up. My Abrahamic journey, so to speak. So
Right.
what ends up happening is, man plans and God laughs, and he kind of led me towards my wife. And so we had this conversation because it really was like I guess a road to Damascus white light moment where it's just like,
Right.
whoa, I love this girl. I literally popped up and I told my boy, and he was just like, call her. I was like, okay. And so I called her and I'm putting my foot down like, look, I'm interested. My plans are to marry you. I'm coming out there. I'll get my own place and a job and get myself established. And I just want to date you with the plans of marrying you. What do you think about that? And she was just like, all right. I was like, okay. So then it became the decision of, does she want to come back to the South? And I just thought, she had 2 children already. They were established. Right. It's just me. I got my air mattress and, 2 bags worth of stuff. Because before I left, I got rid of my car, most of my stuff. Be honest, most of it's probably hidden in the attic of my mother's house. But just kind of shed myself of all like this baggage, And
Right.
so I had to make the decision of, do I try to bring them out where I was because I was working, or do I go out there? And that's what I ended up doing. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Hey, sometimes, man, the way I see it is, and you said it perfectly. Your your Abram experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you gotta leave your surroundings, man, to grow. Like myself, man, and I could be combative with you on that one because I couldn't pastor in California.
Mm.
The reason why, it says in the Bible, a prophet can't preach and tarry in his own land. Why?
Right.
It's because they know you. You know what I'm saying? And you want to get. I can talk about my past all day.
Oh yeah.
Because I thank God what He brought me out of and brought me from. And sometimes I sit and just think about it. If I would have stayed there, I probably wouldn't have been here to talk to you today.
Wow.
And sometimes God will move you into an isolation period so you can get your mind right.
Oh man, that is so nuts. That's exactly what happened. I'm sitting there in Georgia. It was the best shape of my life. I stopped watching a lot of TV and listening to a lot of different music, and I really try to just shave myself down to the bare minimum, and really try to have a conversation and look at myself and say, okay, what are people saying about me that's true and that I can change? And it's really worked out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you got to understand, sometimes you got to picture yourself as this. Even Jesus went up to a mountain to pray. He couldn't be with everybody else when he prayed. Mm-hmm. They was talking about him down there.
Right.
Not just the disciples was worried about him, but I wasn't just talking about the disciples, but the naysayers was talking about Jesus.
Right.
Doing his whole aspect of life, he still had a purpose. And I'll tell you something. You have a purpose. You didn't struggle on purpose. You struggled because you had a purpose. Now let me say it again.
Yeah.
You didn't struggle
I like that.
on purpose. You struggled because you had a purpose. Everybody that's living now, you got to understand, and that's up there, it's because they struggled. They was fighting for what they had. Now think about it. If you had it easy,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You got to think about it, So you have to understand, man, you got to deal with the punches. Life ain't easy. You still going to have some hard times. You still going to hit rock bottom. Trust me, I'm a witness. You know what I'm saying? You still going to have some sleepless nights when you be thinking like, oh, what am I going to do next? How am I going to get this done? Is my wife going to be happy? Is my kids going to be happy? Or, what am I going to do tomorrow for them? What are they going to eat tomorrow? What are they going to eat today?
Right.
So we all, our mind is steady going, being as man in a relationship and as a house, it's like, man, it's overbearing sometimes. But we have to understand God made us a man for a purpose and for a reason.
Now, what do you say to those who look at that as like a sexist comment? What's one of the basic misconceptions about the ordained order of things? God, the man, woman, kids, etc.
You have to go back to Genesis. God made man, and he made woman to be a helpmate, and that lets us know that man can't do it all by himself. He needs a helpmate.
Right.
But we carry the hard stuff while they take on the light stuff. While we're out working or while we out doing what we need to do, either now a lot of people get upset about this. I know where you're going. They should be cleaning the house, cooking, but not all women like that. A lot of women like to go out and work too.
Right.
But a lot of people don't think a woman should work a strenuous job, or go into the military, or preach in the church, or I know that's where you was going, or either doing stuff of that nature.
Right.
Because if you think about it, a lot of preachers and a lot of textual preachers get it a lot of misconstrued, because if you think about it, God calls the woman the church. And if you think about it, why did he call the woman the church? And think about it. If a woman pastors a church, what do you think that is? Now, a lot of people get misconstrued about women pastors, women preachers, and giving orders in the church, because the Bible said a woman should be quiet. But you have to look in that aspect, and like I said, my grandfather was a firm believer about women pastors, women preachers, and a lot of stuff opened my eyes when I started looking at the context and the contextual reading of the Bible and listening to people's content of the scripture, because it really was talking about being quiet in the church, but that was meaning because they didn't understand what was going on during that time.
Oh, okay. Like, not everybody read, like, for a lot of places, especially if you look at the actual environment, in that actual, I guess, the context of that time, that they weren't allowed to read.
Right. And that's, you gotta understand, a lot. The Bible was set in Africa, and if you think about it, back then they didn't know how to read. Some people, not all people, some didn't know how to read, some didn't know how to write, and so Nowadays in Africa, they don't know how to read mainly.
Mm.
If you go to Africa, they don't. Some people, what's his name? Pastor Blakesley, that
Oh,
always
okay.
travel to Africa and everything. He told me a lot of stories
Mm-hmm.
about over there in Africa. Man, it's a poor country. They hardly go to school. They gotta walk 10 to 15 miles to go to church every day. So in that context, you don't even see a lot of women pastors in Africa.
Wow.
you know. So now ain't nothing wrong with women. Hey, nothing wrong with preachers, pastors. In my context, let's get that straight right now. There's nothing wrong with it,
Hmm.
but to be honest, we have to ask ourselves: will you sit under a woman pastor?
Hmm. Well, I know I have before. Excuse me. Oh, so sorry, everybody. So I,
No, no,
I
no,
have
you're fine.
before, and it's one of those things of I always like playing. So I always look at everything like a game that we're playing, and how well you're
Right,
able to play the game. Because you and I are both, athletes, right? Once an
right,
athlete, always an athlete. I know what
right,
you're thinking. Tell that to my knees, but it's one of those things that we're playing these games, and one of the games I like to play is why don't you like something, and can
right,
I change your mind about it? And
right,
so one of the things, I hear this when people talk about women pastors. Like I always feel like, isn't that part of the old covenant versus the new covenant? And God, like when Jesus came, He kind of changed the entire landscape. I mean, even
right,
if you look at that story with the two sisters and they're serving, they've got Jesus in the home. They're serving. They're supposed to be serving him. There's a bunch of protocols involved.
right,
One of the
right,
sisters kind of shirks her job in order to sit and listen to Jesus speak and teach. And the other sister
right,
is doing all this work and getting upset, and Jesus had to stop her and like, hey man, just
right,
relax. What she's doing is way more important than these protocols. And I think
right.
that's what people are missing, the relationship with Jesus and how important that is.
And that's the God's honest truth, man.
Mm.
When well, I call it new skin and old skin. The
Ooh.
old skin talks about women cannot. The new skin is like he went to women. Women was needed then.
Right.
Women have then. And if you think about was it Boaz and what is it? Now you have me thinking.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what. Look, I got Google in front of me just in case. We can go with Boaz as an example. Was
Yeah,
Ruth? Do I have that right? Is it Ruth?
yeah, Ruth and
There we
Boaz.
go.
So you have to understand, man. In the Old Testament, it wasn't really women wasn't really brought up to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things. Only Mary was mentioned that somebody would bear, but then in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because I think in Esther it doesn't talk nothing about God.
Mm. Oh wow. I'm about to look at that. Relook at that. So uh, I want to kind of push back on that idea though.
Go ahead, go
When
ahead.
it talks about, I mean, from the beginning, in I mean, not the beginning, but we talk about the Adam and Eve thing. Eve was a prominent figure there. And moving on down to the Old Testament into like Proverbs, we're talking about the proverb woman. I'm not sure where it's found, but
Proverbs 30 about the virtuous
wait,
woman.
say it again.
Proverbs 31
Proverbs 31. Yeah,
when it talks about a virtuous woman. Yeah,
right. If they look at that, that is a baller woman. I'm up early. I'm cooking and cleaning and get my family right. I make sure my husband looks good. So when he's out
right,
there, I'm helping with the books. Like that doesn't sound like
right,
woman shut up and cook the meal and have my babies. That sounds like she was
right,
running a home like a business. And that's
right,
in the Old Testament. And then you keep seeing these
right.
pockets of situations where women are prominent figures in the Old and New Testament. So how, I guess the question is, how do we get it so wrong with this ideal that the Bible wants women to shut up, be in the kitchen, have babies, and that's it?
Well, like you stated before, brother Jeremy, it's the old skin, and a lot of people dwell on old skin. That's what brings on tradition.
Mm.
A lot of people are saying tradition is what kills the church. Hmm.
Oh. Ooh.
Because if you think about it, a lot of people deal with old skin. They can't shake off to the new skin. Because the new skin, they thinking it's a scheme. They thinking it's a scam. They thinking they just want money. They think they just want this. They just want that. But you have to understand, if you're trying to get people into the church, you have to do something new, dealing with the old and the new.
Ooh. Do you find yourself doing that often?
Yes.
That was
Yes.
a fast answer, Pastor. Sounds like a story is coming.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, man, if Colombia, think about Colombia, you lived here.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is going to dwell with old skin. Yes, it's good. It's what brought us. But if you find a 10-year-old and you just walk up to him and be like, Jesus loves you. Huh?
What?
Huh?
Right. It's all the time, Pastor. That was drilled into us, right? God is good.
Right.
Let you wait a half a second too long. God is good. Boy, did you hear me tell you God good? You don't know God good? Oh, all the time, grandmama. All the time. All the time.
And you're right,
Yeah,
man.
man. Wow.
So we have to reach people where they're at, man.
Ooh, I like that.
When I was younger, me and my grandfather, we went to witnessing, man. Never will forget. We went to LA and we went down to Skid Row witnessing.
Mm.
And everything that he did, I looked at and it was like, wow, it really worked. Because one thing about, I was close to my grandfather, man. He did nothing wrong in my eyesight.
Mm.
I mean, nothing. Everything he did, it was about church in my eyesight.
Mm.
I mean, he witnessed, it was coming from the heart. And that's where I get my love from, to talk to people, to witness to people, because I'm not the one that's new school, wanting money, wanting fabric, wanting new cars, wanting new clothes. Man, when you saw me, I was in my black Nissan Altima,
Yeah.
Things in front of it, I was hanging down, until God blessed me. God blessed me. I didn't have to use the church. I didn't have to use nobody but myself. So to answer your question is, when we think about the old school, that's what brought us. So that's going to be instilled in us till we die.
Mm-hmm.
But how are we going to input into us the new school with the old school? What in the old school can replace the new school? Or what in the new school can replace the old school? Because you got to be very keenly aware that if you take something out that don't need to be there, you might kill your church.
I see. Okay. Yeah. You have an example of that? Has that happened in your experience?
Well, I don't like to bring people names and
Oh, you
nothing,
can
but
leave the
yeah.
names out. You can just give us the experience. Yeah.
Well,
this is you witnessing. You don't have to call them out. Not yet.
Well, I just say it like this: when somebody stays someplace too long, it can kill the church.
I see. Okay. I feel like there's okay.
I could bring my grandfather. He stayed in California for 25 years. When he knew God called him to go somewhere else, but he stayed there and the church started to decline.
Wow.
Because it was somebody younger there that he let preach all the time. That, well, like the young people say now, he had the clout. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people was coming to hear him. You see what I'm saying? And when my grandfather preached, they would just sit there and they know that he was getting up, that they'd leave. You know what I'm saying? So that's what would kill the church. And God told you to leave.
Oh, see. Now, see, that's one thing. We keep bringing up this Abrahamic journey. And the
Right.
idea that God tells Abraham, hey, pick up your tent and do these very specific things. See, my
Right.
relationship with God has grown more and more as I'm, in my parenthood. Right?
Right.
I get it. Like, sometimes I'm reading, especially like when he's dealing with Old Testament Israelites, and he's just like, look, did you not see all this stuff I did for you? I got you. I'm going to need you to calm down. Well, they got a king. I don't want a king. No, you don't need one. I'm the creator of the universe.
Right.
I'm great. What do you need a king for? Well, they got a king over there. Why can't? He's like, fine, take a king. Fine. There's so many examples where God's just like, no, I got this. Don't worry about it. And
Right.
people just go, oh, please, please, please. He goes, okay, fine. I'm gonna still flip this to work to my purpose, but whatever, you know.
Think about it. What you just said. Why do you think God gives an outline of what to do?
Mm,
God telling you what to do, and sometimes I say this. Joseph experience
mm,
when Joseph left Jacob, and he got caught with Pharaoh,
mm,
and he stayed out there for a long time. Jake Joseph had um, Joseph had a calling on him that really he didn't know that he had on himself.
mm,
Think about this. Joseph was in prison.
mm,
Before he went to prison, let me back up. Before he went to prison, he was on a journey. And then he heard a dream from God. That was his first dream.
mm.
That he was going to rule over his family, rule over the nation. Then he had another dream. And notice during them dreams, God pointed out everything what was going to happen. Then he had another dream that, that he was going to be, what was it? It was just 40 something. He was going to be the king. There it goes. He was going to be the king.
Mm.
But you have to understand, sometimes God talks to us when we least expect it to. And me talking to you today, it's like he's been talking to you in visions. He's been talking to you like I'm talking to you.
Mm.
But, you have to understand when it is God and when it's the devil. Because the devil sounds like God.
Or tries to sound like God, right?
Get the wrong ear and you let him hear, then he will guide you wrong. That's why we always have to ask for discernment.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I said, I like what you're doing, brother. Trust me, I love it already, man. I love it because you don't understand. You helping me.
Yeah.
Man, who else can I talk to like this on a Saturday except my wife?
Right. Right. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Like, this is very therapeutic. And like I said, I'm just nosy by nature. So I don't. I'm telling you, it could be a bit much. I have a very big personality, and so it can be a bit much for people. And I get, in my experience, I get a few options, but chief among them are he's too big to tell him to shut up, right? Or, oh, he's so nice, I don't want to hurt his feelings by telling him to shut up, Like, so I crave that. I think that's what drew me to my wife, because my wife will be, quick, fast, and hairy, like, hey. You need to go for a walk or something? Are you okay? You want me to leave and you play some video games or something? You need some you time? Right. I'm like, what? What happened? Am I talking too much? It's a bit much. And I crave that. I loved it in sports. I think I would have done really well in the military. I worked as a corrections officer. With anything with some authority over me, I seem to dwell in. Like, not just survive, but thrive. And so now, really focusing in my old age and as a father, revisiting my relationship with Christ, I see like, oh, okay, that's the whole ideal behind you find your strength on your knees, right? And it's really powerful, man. So I appreciate you for being on here with me.
Man, I thank you, man, because one thing is, and I told you this before, God has something in store for you, brother. And you said something that I took to hear, that you you love people being over you, but sometimes God, I can just tell you right now, God is telling you that you need to be over yourself. All those years. Now this is me talking to you.
Yeah, no, it's hitting hard. It's hitting home.
All those years that you took ownership, that you loved and you liked people over you, you was learning how they did what they did and how they did it. Now you know how to do, what to do, and to interact with others, because you said it yourself, you like being around others. Mm-hmm. That's why I said this is you right here. Mm-hmm. You have that sense of humor, you have that charisma, you have that love for people,
Oh,
man.
stop. Come
Uh,
on, Pastor. That's that Southern charm for those of you who don't understand. Now, he's from Cali, but he's definitely honed his Southern charm skills. I appreciate it, though. Thank you.
but that's just the truth, brother. And like I said, man, it's just an honor, man, to be on with you, to chit chat with you, man. And any questions that you have for me, man, let them rip, man. Let them
I'm
rip.
going to hold you to that.
And I tell you the whole. Hey,
Yeah.
wait, now. Go
Wait.
ahead,
I
man.
should have signed something else. Hold on. An NDA or something. So, all right, let's do a fun one. Talk to
Okay.
me about, because when people think of a pastor, or at least when I do, and there got to be other people like me, they think like, do no wrong. Like, I don't know if you were privileged enough to meet Reverend Williams. Whew,
Yes.
you talk about
Yes.
an aura. I can remember being in Derek Wright's and Kenny's barbershop, and we be just
Uh
talking, cracking up, and then Reverend Williams come in with that smooth hat on, takes off that overcoat, revealing
That collared shirt.
revealing a suit. I mean, real
Right.
Humphrey Bogart. Like this dude was the black Humphrey Bogart in my eyes. But like immediately, just seeing how everybody was kind of like, "Oh, hey, Pastor." I was just thinking about you the other day. I was thinking about where it says in Psalms 27. It's like, wait a minute, we were just talking about something completely different. But
Right.
this
Right.
this sense of, I don't know, this like glow that he had about him that made people like stop whatever fearless conversation was happening in the barbershop, and now we gotta talk about some scriptures. He didn't say
Yeah.
anything. He didn't have a judgeful eye. He probably was laughing about it. My wife is his granddaughter, and
Okay.
so I told her that story, and she just laughed because he was probably laughing at y'all like, yeah, I know what y'all was talking about, you know.
Oh,
So I want to know about the human side of being a pastor. So let's talk about, I guess, your dating experience. How does a pastor date?
well, you talking about me right now?
Well, hopefully you're not dating right now.
Well, the reason I say that
Yeah.
is because my wife go on date night every Friday.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you still date? That's good. That's good. Yeah.
but you talking about in other pastors that's single?
Well,
Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
Well, I guess we'll keep it in our own experience. Like for you, the prelude to your marriage. Like, how does one
Okay.
say, like, man, she seems really interested. Like, how does a pastor? Because in my mind, there's no way it's like, ooh, girl, you looking
Well,
good. Let me talk to you real quick. Hey, come here.
and that's how I met my wife.
Uh,
I'll tell you something. God knows who's for you and who's not for you.
mm.
Yes, I used to go out. I used to go. It used to be golf and stuff
Oh yeah.
here, but they had one in Nashville. Bowling,
Mm-hmm.
skating. What else did we go? Pizza. It was a place by Vanderbilt,
Mm.
right across from the corner of Vanderbilt. Marciano.
Oh,
No,
no. Wait, let me see. Ah,
it's it's just right on the
only
corner.
thing I can remember is like Chili's and
Trust me.
stuff.
No,
Yeah.
no. Chili's was up the street on the main
Oh, see,
street
I'm
on
thinking about
Broadway.
like across from our dorms. Which side are you
Okay,
talking about? I
no,
know it's on the west side, West Nashville there.
it's down by the hospital way.
Oh, Vanderbilt Hospital area. See,
Yeah, it's right on the
yeah.
corner on
See, I was
21st.
an athlete. We got everything brought to us, so
Oh,
I didn't.
excuse
I'm
me.
telling you, I never really got like people like, oh, hey, you went to school in Nashville. Did you ever blah blah blah? I was like, no, I didn't have a car. I was broke. You know, free foods right here on
Yeah,
campus.
and we went, like I said, bowling, skating.
Mm.
Went to the pizza joint, stayed about 4 or 5 hours eating pizza. Um, that was mainly it,
Yeah.
man. Because and one, I always hung by myself.
Oh.
So if I were to do something, mainly it would have been by myself.
Ah, I see.
Um, until I met my good friend from school. Me and him, we would travel back and forth to Texas. That's the one that passed.
Mm.
That preached down here. We hung out. Like we said, we hung out, man, and we enjoyed life, man. Went fishing.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. So,
he was a southern cat.
okay. Looking for
We
some
went
looking for some small and largemouth bass out there. Yeah.
no, it was catfish,
Oh,
man. It was
catfish.
catfish.
Oh, see, that's too easy. Them things eat
Now he was
everything.
looking for that was it buffalo. What was it? Something else. But he never caught a catfish. I was the main one. Well, see, I knew what to use back then, to catch catfish. But different pastors and preachers are different.
Mm.
I could just talk about myself, because I was a homebody.
Yeah.
I went out. But I never drunk, never smoked. Thank God.
Yeah.
And I think one of the main reasons was because, like I said, my kidneys was bad.
Oh yeah.
I was diabetic. But one thing about it, man, I never drunk, never smoked. And like I said, when I met my wife, we was going on dates, galore.
Mm.
You know, and we just took a liking with each other, man. And the first night I met her, like I said, I met her at church. I had Danny Gibbs
Okay.
give the number to her. I said, talk to her for me. Talk to her for me. The one that was direct.
Oh
So
man.
he explained this stuff. And we just started talking ever since, man. And we've been going on dates
Yeah.
ever since.
Man, let me tell you, for people who don't know at home, I don't know a more entertaining and talented person than Danny Gibbs. You talk about some good times, bad, good, bad, ugly, all of it. Just you were never bored around that guy. Oh man, I loved his voice too, boy. He get up
Yeah.
there. First of all, jokes. Right? We
Yeah.
do those Duck River associations. That was so fun, man. So it's basically where all the church, for people who don't know, all the churches in an area get together and they form like a super choir. They have like a week long thing, and it's really fun. And so he be cracking jokes, and he get up there and sing the most angelic song in the most angelic tone. I was like, this dude's like five people in one, man. I can't keep up, but I know I like it. This is great. So thanks
Yeah,
for bringing that name
man.
up. I'll have to track that dude down.
Yeah, he stays in Murfreesboro. I talk to him on occasions. I
Yeah.
got his number. I'll shoot you
Man,
to it.
please, yeah.
Yeah, man. But that's about it. Now, what do you think a pastor should do on dates and preachers do on dates? Since you popped the question, I popped it right back
You
at
know
you.
what?
What is your idea?
So
What is your idea date?
here's my so here's my mind how my mind worked. He sits and
Okay.
he prays, and then a woman shows up on the front doorstep. It's like, let's get married. God told me we're supposed to do it. Let's go, right? so
Right. Right.
so here's my thing when people look at us Christians, right? They look at it as
Right.
it's so rule based and so like tightly bound, which it can be. But
Right.
I
Right.
feel like God says, I'm giving you everything on earth, right? As long as it's
Right.
done within parameters, the parameters that I
Right.
set for you, right? Like sex
Right.
is absolutely great and allowed, as long as you're married,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Right. Right. Right.
you can crack jokes, but as soon as someone is offended, then you have to change what you say and do.
Right. Right.
So I really think being a Christian allows us so much, but I know that misconception that we oftentimes are looked at, because there are some times, man, where I'm out having a good time with people, and it can be completely innocent, and then they'll say
Right.
something like I'll mention something about my Christianity just kind of in passing,
Right.
and they're like, "Huh, I didn't peg you for a Christian. You don't seem like a Christian." I was like, "What about me?" Like, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong, right? What do you mean I don't
Right.
seem like a Christian? What I do? I ain't done nothing. So,
Right.
but
And
but them
I agree.
but them actually just saying like, well, I mean, you seem very nice and kind, and you're not overbearing. I'm like, yeah, that's what the scripture says to do. Plant the seed, let God
Right.
give the increase. Come gently. Like one of my favorite verses talks about how if you're in a very good mood and someone else is in a good mood, don't bring your happy-go-lucky self over there, man. Just tone it down to kind of
Right.
enter at the level that they are, right? Like you said before, meet people where they are, because
Right.
it can
Right.
come off pretty bad. So I don't know. That's how I see dating. I feel like going out and having fun is absolutely what you should be doing. As long as everything is done in the within the rules there.
And I'm about to ask you another
Uh
question. I
oh.
was like,
No, no, it's a conversation, right? It's not a one-sided
but
interview.
but like uh
Take your time. Take your time. Look, I feel like we're in the church
No, no,
house.
no. I'm trying to put it in a way that can be copacetic for everybody to understand. So,
I like that word too, copacetic. I ain't heard that since the '60s.
where in the Bible does it say we can't go out to have fun?
Man, I can't find it because you look at my man Jesus. He was at weddings. Like, he went to people's houses. Like, fellowship, the relationship part was much more important. He said, look, all these rules, regulations, protocols, set that to a side. Do two things. Love God. Don't put anything else above him. And then love thy neighbor as thyself, which means you got to love God, love everybody else, and you have to love yourself. Everything else kind of falls under that umbrella of love, right? And love is absolutely a verb, right? If I love you, I'm not going to call you out your name and punch you in your face, right? Right. It seems to be simple to me, but what are we miss? What is society missing?
That's a good question.
I mean, so when they look at us, it's like, oh, you Christians are this and that, and like, based on what? Like, what are you reading? Are you looking at that one person that says, yes, I'm a Christian, but then I shut up a church? Like, those two things, you can't reconcile those two things. Because being a Christian is you saying, like, no matter what impulses I have, I can't shoot up a church. Right? That's not loving them.
Wow. Oh, that. You just brought something up. I like that. Yeah. I like that. Because I got into, I wouldn't say a argument, because I don't argue over debate. Anything. But can a Christian shoot up somebody and be a Christian?
I think.
And then go back and ask for forgiveness?
I think context is important there. I think first off, forgiveness is a very interesting thing for me. Because I've grown up as a Baptist.
Right.
Excuse me. So I mean all my life I've been, scripture has been hammered in me, but I didn't really take it on for myself until probably right before I met my wife, that I took it seriously and I did my own reading, meditating, seeking others out who did some theology school, some Bible school like yourself, to try to get some answers. And I just got curious, I'm curious. So I just kept asking question after question. And the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know, which is just like, that's like, overtime, score tie, one play left for me,
Right.
So the question being, can you shoot up somebody? And I think, yes, you can be a Christian. I think belief in Christ, that he's God's son, he died for you, makes you a Christian. Now, the different levels of that, right? I don't know. See, that's why I need people smarter than me like you.
Oh, no, stop that. I'm learning just like
you.
But
you're classically trained, so I'm leaning on you here. I'm about to start sweating.
I asked that question because as we look at life, man, and the way it's going, people that say they're Christian really doesn't show that they're Christian. Meaning that if you love God, love Christianity, the stuff that you just stated, it's a verb, it's an action. So that means you should show action that you love Christianity and you love God. So a lot of people get things mixed up as saying that they have faith in God, and some say they love God, some say they trust God. So the people that's okay. Let me back up. Because I'm going deep. Yeah. That's how you trying to focus.
By getting these deep waters here.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna back up and just put it like this. Do you think our president is a Christian?
Oh, I try to avoid that dude at all costs. Oh man.
I'm not bashing him. I just want to ask the question.
I think it's not up to me to put that title on someone. Now, however, I think being in the fold and being a Christian myself, that I can properly judge things, and based on his activity, he's not a Christian, because it's not even necessarily the doing of the sin, because you'll have people bring up David and Bathsheba and all that sort of thing. But it's
Right,
his
right,
continually doing that while the continue right. He's not saying like,
right.
"Hey, oh, I'm sorry about that." Like, first of all, the man barely says I'm sorry. I think maybe I've counted twice in his whole presidency, and I know that's probably an over exaggeration because I'm sure he hasn't done it once. But I'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, I really do think that if you look at him and he says like, "Yes, the Bible is the greatest book next to mine." You know what I mean? Little stuff like that just irks me, man. The greatest book ever written, right? And he doesn't call
Right,
it like First John or Second Corinthians. It's Corinthians, the book that he reads every day.
right, 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 right.
His actions without any sort of without feeling badly for what he's doing, and without any sort of what's the word for when you turn things around, like repenting, right?
Manipulating.
Like I make a mistake, I'm sinning, I'm sorry, and I've confessed that sin, and then I try to
Okay.
turn away from that, right?
Right,
I don't see any
right.
confessions, I don't see any turning away, so I wouldn't call him a good example of a Christian at all. If I mean that's the best I can do. I'm trying to stay like out of all those waters, man, because I'm not qualified to really speak about it. But yeah,
Well, no, nobody really is, man. God is the only judge, man. I just brought that up to see where your mind concept is because it was brought up to me,
mm-hmm.
and I said if it was me, if it was up to me, no, he's not showing his Christian characteristics. He's not showing the oath which he was given.
Mm.
And when all this happened when they took prayer out of schools, it been corrupted, and if you want to be technical, it been corrupted since the world was made.
Mm.
A lot of people don't look at that concept, because this pandemic is nothing new.
Mm.
Think about it. Noah's Ark, that was a pandemic.
Yeah. Of biblical proportions, literally.
I have to always go back to the
Yeah,
Bible, man.
yeah.
So,
The plagues, the
huh?
plagues of Egypt.
Yeah, the plagues of Egypt,
Mm.
man. Come on now. It's this is nothing new under the sun, man. So we just have to let things pass because God is angry. Let's be honest.
Mm.
God allowed this to happen. He didn't cause it to happen, but he allowed it to happen, to get our attention.
Mm.
And that's one thing we have, us Christians, you have to understand that if we believe in God, God is going to take care of his own.
What are your thoughts on this being like God being more of an abstract of residual power? Like y'all are so far from me that I can't even look at you right now. Like, I feel like we're on timeout. Like God isn't here per se, in the sense that like he's gonna be here. It's like, man, I heard what you said. Boom, I'm gonna make your job, cut your hours, so you lay on your ring, you get kicked out. I don't think God really works or operates like that any longer. It's this thing of he's giving us all of these choices, and we can tilt every single day towards heaven or hell, right? Because we're
Right,
aiming people. We always have a goal in mind. A lot of people are like, oh, I have no ulterior motive. Like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Right? Why you
wow,
taking breaths? Why are you eating? Oh, because
right,
you need to live. You need those things to survive. So if we're
right,
always constantly aiming, then I guess the bigger issue comes about of what are we aiming at or for? And a lot of people, bought into this ideal of the pursuit of happiness, and then I disagree with that pursuit. Responsibility, personal self-responsibility, and competence, and the other
right,
stuff will come along. So if you do what the
right,
Bible says, which is read, study, meditate, show yourself approved, act the way Jesus did, like that's where you find your real growth, and that's how you kind of further His kingdom. Because I do feel like God is I just talked to a buddy of mine who says like, man, we're in the end times, rapture gonna happen any second. I'm like, bro, the rapture could happen. Your personal rapture could be in the next 5 seconds. You don't
right,
know when you're gonna
right,
die. Don't be waiting for
right,
this
right,
biblical thing of like the skies opening up and all these things, and pay attention to the signs. All that stuff, is very possible, and I do believe it's true. But I
right.
think, like you said, you went to Skid Row, man. How can you
Yeah,
look at Skid Row and I see that this is absolutely hell? This is
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
hell. And then,
yeah.
you getting on to your daughters, and then 10 years later, she's throwing your words back into your face and like making good decisions based off something you talked about that God told her through you 10 years ago. That's absolutely heaven. And I feel like every day when Paul talks about dying daily, that's kind of what I get out of it is every single day we tilting towards heaven or hell. What are we doing? How are we loving? How are we showcasing God's kingdom? And I think that becomes the more of an issue than God is watching us every 5 seconds and going like, I heard that. Boom. Here comes another problem for you. That'll show him. Like, I don't think God is a helicopter parent.
That all you said was like you hit everything right on. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. So I'm gonna make it easier for you.
Okay.
Do you think God is purging us?
Do I think God is purging us? I'm gonna quote my grandfather by marriage. He used to say something. You got this problem, that problem, this thing, another thing, this issue, that issue, and you're asking God to please fix it without realizing that He's already done it. He knows everything's going to happen. He's put everything in place to make sure everything works to His kingdom and His purpose. It's a mystery for us. You know, I think a lot of people, like, I'm chief among them, trying to figure out God, and that's something you absolutely should just not try to do. Because you can't do it.
Right.
My favorite analogy is we're looking through if you're asked to describe God in His mind, it's like looking through a keyhole and all you see is a lit candle on a nightstand, but you're asking to describe the rest of the room, which is dark to you. You got this very narrow view, and it's just something you shouldn't try. What you should try to do is pay attention to when I do what God tells me to do, how much better is my life? Right? If I keep hitting that snooze button and then I'm late, now I'm rushing, now I'm into a car wreck, all these different things. Like, how much better is it to be more prepared to get up, pray, meditate, get you some breakfast, and leave 30 minutes early to make sure you can take your time and safely get to your destination? How much anxiety goes away when you do things in a particular order, right? If you take God's view on things. So I don't know. Yeah.
Wow, you said order. So do you think that's why a lot of chaos is going on now?
Yes.
Because we're...
Yes, it's a simple answer, right? You talked about Bible out of school, right? And that being the start of the world's crumble. Only pushback I would have on that is that if Jesus is talking to us about the relationship, right, and how important the relationship is, prayer in school is just another protocol, and it absolutely helped. But I think the bigger issue was those 2 world wars that took fathers out of the home.
Wow.
I think that's the bigger issue. One of my favorite stories to tell is there's this article about wild elephants. Like, people were over hunting them for their ivory, the male elephants.
Right.
And so I guess this area was rid of all the older male elephants. And so when the baby male elephants grew up, like, I guess their equivalent to teenage years, they were tearing up the jungle. They were running up on residents and tearing up all kinds of property damage and stuff was involved. So what they did to fix this problem, they didn't go in, fire and brimstone, beat the elephants, tase the elephants, isolate the elephants, anything like that. They went and got older male elephants from different areas and introduced them to this environment. And that fixed everything.
Wow.
Yeah, here's another thing I like to share with people. So you have this idea of the father being removed from the home. That's really the biggest issue everywhere. Not enough dads at home slapping boys in the back of the head saying, hey, man, pull your pants up, boy. Talk like you, say it with your chest, right? Look people in the eyes when you speak. All these things, you know, that mothers are trying to do. Work, you know, single parent mother trying to work 2 jobs and be mother and father at the same time. Like, I think that was far more damaging. Those 2 world wars were far more damaging than taking a protocol out of school. Because you can still pray at the house. You can pray on the way to school, from school. Like, prayer still existed. It's not like they abolished prayer out of our memories. It was a protocol that was taken away. And we all often aim at that as being the reason. But taking the fathers out of the community. Oh, there's I think a statistic. I got to look this up. Maybe I'll put it in a link somewhere when we actually air this. Talking about how, I think on average, not even fathers being in the home, but the more fathers or father figures you have in a community, like there's a direct correlation between that and how healthy that community is. Not saying women aren't absolutely doing their thing, but it's something to be said about a father figure. So a boy can see his father or someone in the community doing something other than slinging dope or whatever, right?
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
I don't know, man.
Like, man, you hit that. Like I said, man, hey, I love this. And you just brought up something, the lack of fatherhood. And if you think about it, the Old Testament and the New Testament, it was more women leading the way in the New Testament. And if you think about the downsizing of fatherhood, jail, prison,
wars,
drugs, and things of that nature. So if you think about it, women now are capable of leading and how can I put it? Leading and guiding their kids in the right direction, because one, a woman has the sense of what's the word I'm looking for?
6 6 or something like that. What is it?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
it's 6 6. But you gotta be careful because, well, I ain't gonna say that. That's one of your other shows. But you have to be careful of how you raise your kids.
Ooh. Hold on, little pastor. Okay, all right. Continue. Pray.
No, I'm done. I'm done on that one.
Was that a mic drop that you just? That is so true. Look, like I said, I'm an athlete, so I played multiple sports. I had the privilege to coach Little League and high school football.
Wow.
Yeah, shout out to the Monarchs out there, undefeated season, first and six. Yeah. Look, I lost so much when I was at Spring Hill, bro. I'm not gonna listen. I lost so much when I was at Spring Hill. It was such a new thing, and I was so enraptured in the grind of it every day, every week. And then, like, all of a sudden, it was all over, and we had won every game and won the championship. It was like, wait a minute. Wait, it's over? It's done? And I thought, like, man, like, that's the difference. Like, one of my favorite comedians had this thing.
Now, did you go to school with Sheik in Spring Hill?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A class of 04.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So was Miss Victoria still teaching there?
I had her. Yeah, my now Aunt Victoria was my teacher. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Dakar. Hey, look. People know what that is. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Yeah.
Oh.
So in my playing and in my coaching, what I've always found, talking about like the world wars happening, and then the women, first time in history, en masse, go into the workforce, and then changing the dynamics of what it means to be husband and wife. Like, no. I'm making the money. You watch the kids. Which, traditionally speaking, is what men are supposed to be doing. The Bible calls for us to raise the kids. Like, I love Dr. Tony Evans. He's one of my favorites. And he was just like,
man, he mine
oh,
too,
boy. Oh, he be hitting me so hard. He's like, the Bible, I don't know the verse, but he's like, the Bible tells men to raise the children. Men are supposed to be raising the children. It's like, now, fellas, I see y'all looking at me like, well, what the woman's supposed to do? It's in the word, help. I was just like, oh, look, pew, pew, shots fired. Oh. And literally, listen, I know you know this. You got a black Southern wife yourself, but this slow motion turn of like, oh, yeah, looks like mama's going on a vacation.
But that makes a whole lot of sense what Tony said now, man, because, and we just went over it, man, because the Old Testament talks about men, and in the New Testament, the women was helping.
Yeah.
And that makes a whole lot. I'm about to go study that.
Man,
you gonna hear that again?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. It's you.
Yes,
I watched you and the bishop out of, I think, Mount Zion. My sister got me started with him, and then
Bishop Jakes. No, not Jakes. Bishop Walker.
Is it Bishop Walker? I just call him Bishop.
Walker?
from Mount Zion over there in
Yeah,
Nashville, out of Nashville.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
So
Hmm.
him, you, and like, of course, I stop in and my Joels and my TD Jakes and Dr. Tony Evans and although I kind of just rotate. And Transformation Church has been my like focal point as far as different Bible studies. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
really fun, man. I can see you doing something like that, especially UNC could being relatively young. Because my
Yeah.
kids tell me every day I'm old. I'm like, man, you right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like I said, we like to have fun. When I say we have fun, we have fun.
Good,
You know,
good.
and like I know it's a lot to do in New Mexico because one of
Yeah.
the deacons. I don't know if you met him yet. Yeah, I think you met him. He joined under me since I've been there
Mm.
2 years, 3 years ago. His son stay in New Mexico, and I think his
Oh,
Deacon Bailey.
Deacon Bailey. The name doesn't resonate, but
Well, he's light skinned. His sons are dark skinned twins.
twin. No, see, I love twins, so I definitely would have remembered that detail. I got this
Okay.
weird thing where I'm just like, hey, are y'all twins? Like real twins? That's cool. Can y'all feel each other's feelings? Do you think each other's
when
thoughts?
I when I when I talk to him probably tomorrow. Well, we're still doing virtual.
Mm,
I'll call him probably next Wednesday because he'll be on our Bible study line,
right.
and I ask about him, man, and I give you the name because they stay in New Mexico,
Okay, yeah.
and you guys can link up and man, if that's only if you want to, but
Oh, yeah.
they link up with him and
Uh-huh.
everything, and I think he's in the service.
Okay. So he's probably over there by Kirkland Air Base. Is he Air Force or you know what branch he
I got
is?
I gotta find out, man,
Yeah.
because
We
I
got
think
time. Look, we got time, Pastor. Don't worry. We got time.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Any other questions before I get off
Oh,
and take
man.
medicine and stuff?
Okay. Last question. We'll end on this. What's one thing that you would tell a non-believer who's had the worst examples of Christians and have said to themselves, "I want no part of it," because they want the wife to shut up. The Bible believes in slavery. All these things. What is the one thing that you would say to a person like that?
I would say, can I talk to you for a minute first of
Mm,
all, and then we'll sit down and talk. I'll be like, who woke you up this morning?
mm,
Who started you on your way? Did you have faith to get out the bed? And they might ask, what is faith? Well, faith is something that you don't see, but you know that it's there.
mm,
I would say, who give you your ability to move when you don't think you're moving? Meaning wise, when I say that, I take it in consideration because a lot of people move in ways that they don't even see themselves moving in.
mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah.
Life plays tricks on us in many different ways. And the only person that gives you breath is who? And they might say God, they might say Jehovah, they might say Rapha, they might say, start using other names. But the reason being is if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And just to sit down and talk and see what really made them get that in their mind that, I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to listen about Jesus. I don't want to do this. But if they take the time out to just sit down with you, that means they were interested.
Mm,
Don't never push nobody away about giving them God. Because you got, like I said, first you got to meet them where they're at.
mm-hmm.
Ask that question, why? And then when did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And you're still here. Why are you still here? Because you got purpose.
Wow.
You got a destination. And when you live out your destination and God see fit for it, then you'll be with him. See, God has given us time after time after time to talk to people in this statue that you just said. But do we ever take the time to do it? It's a lot of people now living in dark days now.
Mm-hmm.
But we the one that will have the light. But are we taking a light to Skid Row? Are we taking a light down on 8th Street? Are we taking a light down in Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
Where's our light? Our light is dimming because we're burning our own light inside the house, but the light is when we go outside is dimming. Nobody
Mm.
want to see our light.
Wow.
Our light is tinted. So we have to be careful of how we treat people, because the way we treat people is the one might hurt the next day. And they'll talk about, trust me, I've been talked about, I've been mistreated. Oh, Greg ain't nothing, Greg ain't this, but I'm the main one that's helping them. I'm the main one putting food on their table, clothes on their backs, when I don't even have it. But they talk about me. Why? Because they wish they were in my shoes, but they don't know what I did to get in my shoes. And a lot of people that's hurting like that, that you just stated, is because they're hurting. They want somebody to talk to them.
Right.
They want somebody to guide them. But the question is, are we ready and are we willing to do it?
Wow. That's awesome, man. I really appreciate it. My wife has this thing from her job, excuse me, skill or will. So it's this thing about, can you do it? Great. Then it's a matter of will. We use that on each other, our children. It's one of our things that gets us through each day, you know. Like, hey, I know you can wash dishes. I know you can clean up after yourself. So it's not the skill, which means it's will. And either you fix it or I will find a way to help you fix it.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I really appreciate that. And thanks for the time, man. You're going to have to come back because I've got many more questions. Especially about your hooping days, man. I did not know that. Yeah.
Woo, yeah.
We can get into some old sports talk.
Oh, yeah, we can do sports talking.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right.
Yes, sir, man. And like I said, man, thank you all. Thank you, man, for wanting to sit down, chit-chat with me, man, and have this conversation with me, man. I love talking, especially about, you know, this world that we're living in, myself. I like to open up, man, and whatever you think I know, come to me. If I don't know, I just tell you I don't know. But I don't know everything. Yeah, I'll point you in the right direction, man, and we can look at it and dissect together till we both find it.
Amen to that. Well, I appreciate it, Pastor. All right. Well, there you have it. This has been another episode of What the Frap with J-Zilla. Thanks to my guest, Pastor Greg Givens, and to his lovely family and all my Mount Lebanon church family and my Columbia family. You know, thank y'all, and, you know, join us next week. Thank you.